Well, thank you everybody for coming out here. So, yeah, I always come into these things thinking, okay, what value can I bring you? What can we talk about? Is it a business philosophy? Is it a story, a motivational story, or is it something personal, whatever? So, like, I've been doing some deep thinking over the last few months, and some things happen over time, and you start to think, you start to contemplate, and so I'm a driven guy. I'd imagine. I think everybody here is pretty driven for the most part, and no judgment if you're not. But I think we're all driven to some extent. And I've been, for whatever reason, growing up in a house, a 2-bedroom house, 1.5 bath or 1 bathroom, 7 kids, brothers and sisters fighting to go to the bathroom every day. Whether that was the cause for me being driven to not have that or get away from that, I don't know that answer. I just know since I was 10, 11 years old, I could tell you stories where I would just go, and I didn't even know of setting goals, but I remember as a 10-year-old, like I had a paper out, 11-year-old, whatever, I had a paper out, and when I'd have to knock on doors and collect the money. And as it got close to winter, I would say, hey, when it snows, don't let anybody else shovel your snow. I'll just get it and you pay me later. And I mean, 11 years old, I was doing this, and I remember I didn't care how cold it was, how snowy it was. I would walk out that door in the morning. I'm like, I'm not coming home to have $100 in my pocket. Now I'm talking, 1980 something or 70 something, and so I was like, and my fingers would be getting hard as rocks, my toes would be hurting, and I know I could always work myself through it. I would just think, just move your fingers, move your toes, and then you break the threshold, and then they don't hurt anymore. But for whatever reason, I started thinking that way as an 11-year-old, 10-year-old, and I've been driven since. But I don't always do the smartest thing. I don't always do the right things. I've made my mistakes in life. We all have made mistakes. So it was about 2-3 months ago, I just, I started thinking, I'm like, what does it pay to be so driven that sometimes you forget some of the finer things in life? And then I thought about, okay, is it a negative thing to be content, right? And I woke up one morning, and I'm like, this word just was resonating in my head, and it was fine lines, fine lines. There's a fine line for everything, right? If you think about it, we're probably walking fine lines every single day of our lives, whether it's health, whether it's money, whether it's business, whatever the case may be, relationships. You could always be walking a fine line. So I started thinking, okay, and I started journaling on this stuff. What's the fine line between ambition and contentment? Being driven and being content. And some people would say, I heard somebody say this 2 months ago, 3 months ago, hey, if your checkbook is bigger than your vision, then you don't have a big enough vision. And I'm like, maybe somebody's done so well that they want to start enjoying this stuff, and it's okay to not have this big, ambitious goal above that. Maybe, I don't know. I don't have the right or wrong answer. It was just a thought process I was going through. And I think it's a both and thing, because I want to be driven, but what I need to start doing is slowing down and enjoy the fruits of those labors, and smell the roses, so to speak. And so it's got me thinking, what other fine lines are out there? Because I want to be driven, I want to hit these goals, but I also want to enjoy them. So anybody ever read the book Mastery?
Was it?
Mastery? Mm-hmm. So there's a process, to be a master at something, you have to 10,000 hours at this, and you become a master. But they say there's this trajectory of working 10,000 hours, and you get to your goal, and then what do? You hit a plateau. You recede a little bit, you hit a plateau. So it's like, I want to be driven, I want to hit that goal, and then, okay, let me enjoy it, celebrate it. Okay, now get the next goal. It's not like, okay, hit this goal and bang, hit this next goal and hit this next goal. Take time to enjoy it. So the mastery plan goes up, it comes down, plateau, up another level, comes down, plateau, so on and so forth. So I'm like, okay, I'm starting to do this ambition and driven thing. And then I'm like, okay, what other fine lines are there out there? So when I start speaking about scarcity and abundance, do you know what I mean? A scarcity mindset versus abundant mindset. So am I resonating with you? Everybody dig? So if I have a scarcity mindset, I'm thinking there's never enough. Or like in my real estate world, if you got that listing, I lost it. Instead of thinking there's enough out there for everybody. Or how am I going to make it today? That's thinking like from a scarcity mindset. From an abundant mindset, there's enough out there for everybody, or I'm not worried about maybe the money, right? I'm thinking abundant. And the one example I can give you, and I've talked about this before, is just my gardening experience. I look at my garden and I plant a few seeds. The next thing I know, I got this freaking amazing thing of fruit and vegetables coming up, and half of it goes rotten every year because I can't give it away. I get so much of it, and I think, okay, I got to prune that back. I got to cut it back, and when I cut it back, it gives it more breathing room, and it grows to another level. And so I'm always thinking the vegetables are always going to be there. The plants, when I prune them, they're going to get bigger. Prune, get bigger. Our databases, are we pruning our databases so it can get bigger? You know, slow down to speed up. It's this whole thing, right? So what's this fine line between scarcity and abundance? And I was talking to a guy 2 weeks ago. I said, hey, I said, Tom, what's the fine line? You're a business guy, you're a money guy. What's the fine line between thinking scarcity and thinking abundant from a financial standpoint? And he said, when you don't think about the money anymore. Maybe that works for him, maybe it doesn't. You know, you could be multimillionaires and still be worried about money all the time, right? Who knows? But so what I'm talking about today, it's not from an opinion standpoint, it's not from a factual standpoint, it's just from a thought standpoint. Just I want you to think about this stuff. So in our business, and a lot of our businesses, we deal with people, right? And sometimes the good thing is we need the people for our business, but sometimes the hard part is the people, right? So we have to have conversations with people, right, all day long in our businesses, right? And the question I ask you, what's the fine line between reacting to somebody and responding to somebody? Think about that. My buddy Zig Ziglar, I mean, I don't know him personally, but I've read so many of his things and listened to so many of his tapes. He tells a story about this lady. She's got a child. He gets sick, takes him to a doctor, gives him medication, goes home, 2 days later, breaks out in a rash. Doctor says, hey, had a bad reaction to the medication. Goes back home, gives him new medication, prescription, whatever, clears up in 3 days, calls him up, say, everything's clear. He goes, he responded well to the medication. But it's a real fine line, because you can say, Rob, you're just playing on words here. But they say typically reaction is a negative event and a response is a positive thing. Give you an example, and Sharon, you heard this past week. So I had a guy that worked for me years ago, and his parents had to do a short sale. And short sales are not a pleasant experience to go through. So they lived on my street, knew each other for a lot of years, and this thing is not going well. He had the same name as I did, and so what happened was things are just, they're hard. We're getting through, but it's hard. So I'm walking into Best Buy one night. I'm walking to Best Buy, got my phone, I'm getting a new phone. So bzz, bzz, I get a text, and it's from the client, and it's like, Rob's doing a horrible job, Rob this, Rob that, and my blood pressure's boiling, and I'm like, Deb, can you believe this? I'm right? And I'm like, you know what? She doesn't know that she sent it to me, she meant to send it to her son. Picture that, right? So I'm like, I put up my phone in my pocket, I'm like, you know what? If I react now, it's not going to be good. And you notice I almost said respond. If I respond now, if I react right now, it's not going to be good. So I'm saying, I said to my wife, I said, I'm going to put this away and I'll respond tomorrow. And your mind is more at ease. You've had a chance to think about it, and a response is good. It still might not be good, but it's going to be better than the reaction. And so in my business with real estate, we have this thing called a home inspection. And every time I sit down with my sellers and I do the listing appointment, I say, look, you're going to get your house sold, you're going to get a contract, and they're going to probably do an inspection. Now, the last 2 years, we haven't seen inspections. People just buying things as is. But they're going to get an inspection. When they do, they're going to give me this report, and they're going to give me this request for repairs and tell me everything that's wrong about your house. And you're probably not going to take too kind to it. So what's going to happen is I'm going to give you this, and I want you to absorb it, and I'm not going to talk to you that day. I'm going to wait tonight. I want you to sleep on it, and we'll talk tomorrow. Because I've had it before where I've talked to those people right after they get that report, and they're going off the charts. They're reacting. So I give it a day, and they respond. So there's these fine lines, right? And I'm not going to give you 30 of them, but I got a handful of them here. So think about another fine line that we deal with all the time. And some of you may do this, and some of you may not. Self-confidence and self-doubt. Where's the fine line there? Where is it? I'm confident, but what if it doesn't work out? I know I can do it, but what if, where's the fine line? Where do you draw the fine line? You could say confidence and arrogance. I want to be a confident guy, but I don't want to be arrogant. There's a fine line there. Whether it's low self-esteem and humility. Think about that one. Think about that one. So to be a humble person, you think of yourself less. To have a low self-esteem, you think less of yourself. Where's the fine line there? I think with the humility thing and thinking of yourself less and thinking less of yourself, I just remember coaching basketball. I remember I was coaching 10, 11, 12-year-olds, right? Some girls were like, I want to go first. Some girls were like, oh, you go first, you go first. And I think about the girl who always lets somebody go in front. Is she letting that person go in front because she feels good enough about herself, she'll go last, she can handle things, or she let everybody go in front because she's afraid and insecure and has a low self-esteem? Where do we draw the fine line? Faith and fear. Where's that fine line? I got a lot of faith, but I'm scared of shit sometimes. Right? Where's the tipping point for all this stuff? And is there a tipping point where you say enough is enough, I'm going to jump all in and have faith? Am I going to jump all in and be the confident guy? Am I going to jump all in and live this life that I'm supposed to live? Because I think about the God thing a lot, right? And you've heard me come from a spiritual mentality. You heard me talk about God. You heard me talk about all this stuff, and I'm a believer, right? But maybe I'm a half believer. Maybe I got one foot in, and the other foot's like, God, I don't know if I want all this, because if I say I'm all in, what are you going to give me? Am I going to be able to handle it? And I was just with a group of guys on Saturday morning. I do this men's fellowship group the first Saturday every month, and we were talking about this. I'm like, I can tell you all day long I'm a spiritual guy and faithful, but I'm scared to jump all in. So sometimes we can have all the faith in the world, but then we can have fear too. So is it a both and or either or? I'll let you decide. I'll let you make that decision. These are just things that are spinning in my head these days. And I'm like, okay, what is it going to take for each one of us to really jump in the game of life? Are we all in? You know the answer. I don't know your answers. I can sit here and say, I can tell you I'm all in, but I do things that I know tells me that I'm not all in. How do you do that? You know, and then we have these what ifs. What if? I was gonna bring my little speaker, my Bose speaker, and I was gonna crank up this song for you tonight. I don't know if it was gonna go over well with the restaurant here. But you ever hear the song, What If It All Goes Right? Have you ever heard that song? Check it out tonight. No, I can't sing it. I can dance, but I can't sing. I can dance now, but I can't sing. Because our minds tend to go to the negative side of things. What if it goes wrong? What if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? What if it all goes right? What's the fine line between thinking what if it goes wrong and what if it goes right? And there's a few things that are the deciding factors to make that decision. It's your conditioning, number one. What's our conditioning? And you coaches out here kind of know that, right? The mindset, the conditioning, your commitment. Are you committed to jumping all in? Are you committed to be the best version of yourself? Are you committed to have that faith and say, look, whatever happens, happens? Are you committed? Are you committed? So we can, and I know I've mentioned this before, that whole P90X thing. You guys remember that when that was a fad? What were the three words? Decide, commit, succeed. Great mantra. Make a decision, commit to it, and you'll succeed. So I'm talking about that. I'm walking that fine line. Which side do I want to be on? And it's about, I can waffle all day long. And when I waffle, I'm really holding myself back. We all are. And I'm not saying there's times to be fearful and times not to be. Again, that's all your decisions. I'm just saying, think about this. And so the other piece of that thing is awareness. You got to be aware, am I thinking negative? Am I thinking positive? Am I on the fence or am I off the fence? Halfway in or halfway out? And only you know that. But you know it more so if you increase your level of awareness. So what are you going to do? Are you going to jump in this game of life and are you going to have this trust and faith that everything's going to work out? And look, I'm driving 25 hours on Sunday to take my son to college. Sunday and Tuesday. It's a 3-day trek, right? So a couple things here. There's sadness and joy. There's a fine line. I'm sad that he's leaving, but I'm happy and joyful that he's going to experience something for the next 2 years. I'm scared. I'm psyched that we're going to drive in the desolate places. I don't know about that, but I'm psyched that we're going to drive and he's going to have the experience. But what if the car breaks down? You know, see what I'm saying? What if there's a tornado? He'll be happy as a pig in mud.
He won't love it, right?
Right. So
the reality is things will go wrong.
and
They
you,
always do.
and you just go with
Right?
it. You just
That's
go
it.
with it. So
It's going to be okay.
what's it going to take for each one of us to make that decision to either be all in, be on the fence, or be all out? And again, there's going to be times when you maybe have to step out. You have to take a time out, right? But that's up for you to decide. But just know if you step out, you can always get back in. If you step out and you get back in, go all in. And I'm not just talking to you people here, I'm talking to myself too.
Yeah.
I'm talking to myself. I journal about this stuff, man. I write this stuff down. I'm like, where am I? Where am I? You might think I'm goofy and crazy and all that, but I do this. This is what I think about. So anyway, are you all in? Are you all in? You're all out, you're halfway in. You decide what you want to do, where you are, and make your decisions based on that. And do what's right for you. Make the decisions that are best for you. And just think about the commitment, the mindset, the awareness. Think about all that, and then live the life you're supposed to live. So